So, guys, welcome to the Technical Tuesday call. This is the Tuesday, October 4th edition. Um, first October, first Monday, Tuesday rather, in the month of October. And guys, we've got a big treat for you. One of my favorite people in the whole wide world, Rob McLean, came to us 18 years ago. I remember the first time I ever met Rob. We were at a Colorado Rockies baseball game. We met, kind of were hanging out, eating hot dogs, chewing the fat. Next thing I know, I hear this voice next to me screaming, "Let's go Rockies!" Just standing up with a fist held high, shaking, and it's just this mountain man of a voice. And let me just tell you, there were more than a few Snickers in our section that were just like, "Who is this guy?" And I found out over the last 18 years that this guy is Rob McLean. Guys, Rob has been started his business out in the Mile High City. Lived in Denver, worked in Colorado for about 3 years. Then met Deb, fell in love, and it's funny. The one thing he told Peter when he was interviewing, he said, "Man," Peter said, "Well, where do you want to live?" And Rob said, "Well, gosh, where can I live?" He goes, "Wherever you want." He goes, "Well, I know that I don't want to live where it's humid and where there's a lot of bugs." Because I've sold books in the hot, humid weather where there's lots of bugs, and I don't like humidity. I don't like bugs. He goes, "Well, how about Denver? Denver's got no humidity and very few bugs." And Rob's great. Let's do that. So then fast forward a couple years, he meets Deb, falls in love. They decide they want to start a family, and Deb wants to be closer to her family where she grew up in Arkansas, where it's hot and humid and there's lots of bugs. So careful what you wish for, ladies and gentlemen, because you might just get it, or you might not. But Rob has three amazing boys, football players, and just a lot of fun to be around. Rob is the number 8 all-time salesperson in the history of Globe Life Family Heritage Division, with over $3.66 million of net annualized premium. So yeah, when people get to the $1 million mark, they kind of beat their chest and make a big deal, and they're in an elite club. Well, Rob's 3.5 times that and climbing each and every day. Just has a huge heart for people, loves to help others. And I'll be the first to say, guys, Rob's not the kind of person that's going to call people up and say, "Hey, can I help you? Hey, can I help you? Hey, can I help you?" But any one of you was to call him up or ask him to hop on a Zoom, he'd give you the shirt off his back. Which is a very nice shirt, by the way. You can afford nice shirts when you sold $3.66 million of premium. But he will absolutely bend over backwards to help people. He loves helping. And so, guys, with that, let's give a warm Schneider Agency, Davenport Agency, the amazing, the incomparable, the tall, Rob C. McLean.
Thank you. Hey, I want to do this totally different. I'm gonna share some things, but I want to ask a bunch of questions. We just did names, right? All morning. Uh-oh. Am I gone?
No, you're there. You're in the middle. You're the spotlight.
Okay. There we go. So we used names of recognition, right? We use names of who's going to 201 and 301. We use names when talking about, Rob McLean is this and Rob McLean is that. And, names are important, right? Why are names important in our business? Just throw it out there. Why are names important in our business?
Builds trust. People found the approval of others.
Builds trust. Okay. I'm going to write these down. Builds trust. Keep going. What? Someone else said something?
People buy on the approval of others.
Approval of others. What else?
People love hearing their name.
People love hearing their name. Yep. Go ahead.
Brings a community together.
Community. So I'm going to tell a couple stories here, and hopefully it'll help you understand the importance of names. And we'll talk about why names, how names, and where names. Okay, that's my 3-point outline. I don't really have an outline, but that's what we're going to do today. So yesterday I did a presentation for a real estate company, and the real estate company was referred to me by another realtor who used to work in this company Okay. I got to him because he works for a buddy of mine who I'm in a BNI meeting with. BNI is a networking group and whatnot. So Nick Limbard bought a policy from me, and he said, "Hey, I've got 26 salespeople, and I've got a sales meeting. I know you do presentations. Would you like to come?" That's not exactly the conversation. It was more me saying, "Hey, can I come?" Right? And I did a presentation, and I sat down with John Howard. And when I was done with my presentation, I was like, "Hey, are you happy that Nick allowed me to come talk to you?" Yes, got it. Without Nick telling you or allowing me to come talk to you, you never would have heard about this, right? Now you're protected for if you or your wife got any heart or stroke, Um, so maybe I could ask your help. The hard part about my job isn't finding people that like this and can afford it. It's just catching people's attention. Who are some other families that you care about that I could say hi to? And based on who you are, they may listen to me like Nick did for you. He goes, "Well, I used to work for this company out in Mountain Home, which is like 3 hours away from where we currently live," right? I said, "Oh, perfect. What's her name?" "Jewel Pendergrass." Awesome. So I looked up Jewel Pendergrass. Okay. And in my mind, before I approached Jewel, okay, I was thinking, okay, her business is in Mountain Home. So what names do I know in the Mountain Home area? Okay. Well, I have a client who she used to be the principal at the kindergarten in Mountain Home. She's now, well, she was the superintendent of a school district. But anyway, Vanessa Jones, and her maiden name is Thomas. So Vanessa Thomas Jones. Sometimes maiden names are important, especially in small towns. So when I called Jewel, I said, "Hey, Jewel, this is Rob McLean, and you don't know me, but John Howard mentioned I should introduce myself to you. And oh, by the way, I know you're in Mountain Home. Do you happen to know Vanessa Jones or Vanessa Thomas?" And she's like, "I know them well." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. So you know her dad, Van Thomas, who used to have the car shop right there outside in Gassville?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, hey, John's a client of mine, and he didn't say what I do would be a fit for you. He just mentioned that I should introduce myself. Okay. So could I take 30 seconds and share with you what I do? And then you tell me if you should want to hang up on me, if we should continue talking." Right. So based on John's name and Vanessa's name, okay, I was able to get an appointment with Jewel. Now, I did a presentation with Jewel. They're like in their 70s. Her husband is the county judge for their county. So I was thinking, oh my, there's an opportunity for me to get in front of the county, right? But I said, "Hey, Jewel, are you comfortable with the way I dealt with you, like in terms of how I how I presented myself, how I how I approached you?" She's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Well, John is the one who passed your name on to me, okay? And he passed your name on for two reasons. One, he said, hey, you might be interested in her for her personally, right? But she also has an office of people." So I said, "Hey, Jewel, would you be open to me doing a presentation?" She's like, "Absolutely." So yesterday morning at 9 a.m., I did a Zoom call just like this from the comfort of my own home. And I'm not, yeah, anyway, most people get out. That's a 3-hour drive, right? I have changed my ways. And if I don't have to drive, I will definitely do a Zoom call. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. She said, I go, "Well, I've never done a Zoom group meeting. How's that going to work?" And I said, the main thing is I need to get names and numbers from people at the end so I have people to call. I said, "Would you be comfortable if you gave me a roster of all the people that were on the meeting with their names and numbers, and I would just follow up with them? And so when I'm on the call, say, hey, da 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 da, you know." So there we go, right? So I did the presentation yesterday, and I've got 2 claims in that area that are fairly significant. Van, did you allow me to share my screen or no?
I hold on.
Sorry, I didn't communicate with you well. But anyway, I was doing my presentation, and when it got down to the out-of-pocket costs, I said, "What are some out-of-pocket costs that impact realtors?" And they're like, "Oh, loss of income and insurance limitations and things like that." And someone said travel. I said, "Interesting. Why did you say travel?" And I said, "Do you know someone who's had to travel?" "Oh yeah, I know someone." I go, "Well, let me tell you a story about Sherry Ragland." And I heard in the back of the room, a guy said, "I know Sherry." was like, interesting. So this is a name that I just threw out there, right? That knows another client of mine, which is about an hour away. And it's just weird how small towns work and things like that. But let me share with you this story. Okay. So
Your co-host, Bob. Yeah.
all right, got it. Thank you. So screen share, start broadcast. Okay. Can you all
Yeah.
see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the first letter from Vanessa Jones. Remember, I used this name. So, to whom it may concern, I got acquainted with Rob McLean after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My husband added me to his cancer policy after we were married, but I never met Rob. Not long after my diagnosis, my husband contacted Rob to share the news. Within a day or two, I received a call from Rob. I was still in shock and vulnerable. Let's skip down. When I first spoke to Rob, he provided me with the information about our cancer policy, how to file claims, and how to contact him for support as I was going through the process. He was also empathetic and respectful of my privacy. Skip down. I began communicating with Rob on a regular basis as I started filing claims. He's dependable, efficient, and friendly. After submitting paperwork to the company, Rob contacted them to verify receipt, and he would follow up with me to confirm. I was working with a person, not a company. Over the course of my treatment, we received approximately $10,000 in benefits to cover expenses. This is one less thing you have to worry about while juggling multiple appointments, tests, surgeries, recovery, and time away from work, family obligations. So again, these people in this room don't know me, but they know Vanessa, right? And then they also, this other guy knew Daryl Young knew Sherry Ragland. It says, several years ago, I purchased policies for my husband and myself. My reasoning was that my husband's a smoker, and I was concerned about his chances of getting cancer, and if I didn't need it, it'd be a nice retirement bonus. Never even thinking of the possibility of me coming down with the nasty C word. In February 2020, I went in for routine blood work. The doctor called me back in and gave me the news that no one wants to hear: cancer, leukemia. One thing that stands out in my mind most of all is when I called Rob to tell him what was going on and I needed his help getting started with paperwork. His immediate response was, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Can I pray with you?" I responded with a yes, and he said, "Let me pull off the road." And then there he stopped to pray for me. That's true concern. During the first round of battling leukemia, I was hospitalized for a week at a time, every 4 weeks for a total of 8 treatments. Every step of the way, Rob was there helping my family and me utilize all the benefits I was eligible for. I was blown away at how this company stood by their promises. They paid everything they promised they would: travel, hospitalization, wellness checks, and housing. After a year of remission, the nasty leukemia returned, which resulted in more hospitalizations and trips to Houston. Family here is still keeping their promises and standing by us. I still have a ways to go until I get a stem cell transplant, but I know that Rob and Family Heritage have got my back. I'm not sure on the exact amount I've received, but it's upwards of 60,000, and we have more claims to go. Roger and I are so thankful we joined the Family Heritage family. I think you will too. Okay, so again, these people don't know me, but they know Sherry and they know Vanessa. Okay, I am gaining instant trust in, number one, my company that they've never heard of. I'm in Arkansas, right? No one ever's heard of Globe Life Family Heritage. I mean, most of the other people who sell Globe Life Family Heritage, I'm blessed to have no competition. They all are down in the Little Rock area. Okay, so I have the, well, I've never heard of that company before, right? Well, have you heard of Sherry Ragland? Yep. Okay, cool. Have you heard of Vanessa Jones? Yep. Awesome. Well, they say it's good, so it's good. We do this all the time, right? We ask for Google likes on our pages or Facebook likes. Why? Because we're trying to get group buy-in, right? The more likes you get, the better you're going to do. I'm old. I'm realizing that. I'm about to be 48 years old, which is hilarious to me. I still feel very, very young. My body reminds me that I'm old, but I do my own social media, right? I collect testimonials. And then I'm just always asking people, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? I have another story. So I sold a guy. Again, I was working a fire department. How I got to him, his wife is a principal at a school district. And I said, "Well, what's your husband do?" She's like, "Oh, he works for the sheriff's department, but he's also a fire chief." Okay. And so I said, "Okay, do you think he'd allow me to come talk to his volunteer fire department?" So sure. So I went and did a presentation there. So because of name recognition, I got to sit down with a gentleman who bought a policy, and they bought an ICU plan, which was like elite plan because they're new married and they're concerned about kids and blah, 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 right? And I said, "Hey, are you comfortable with my salesmanship?" "Yep." Who are some names that you know that I could say hi to, and based on who you are, like Daphne, you said you work for your dad's company. You kind of run his office. Could I say hi to the company? Well, my dad is the company. I'm like, oh, super. What's he do? He owns a trucking company. Oh, awesome. So called up him. He bought 4 policies at elite level. I showed level 4. I said, hey, this is what most people in your age bracket get, but I'm going to show you all levels. He goes, can I buy a level 8? I'm like, absolutely you can, and then, hey, who are some names of people that I could talk to, and based on who you are, they may listen to me. So he's like, I got a couple drivers. I got people I used to drive with. And so here's some names, right? Well, I got a name to a guy named Mark Gerardo. Okay. And I did a presentation with Mark Gerardo, did the same thing. Hey, Mark, you don't know me, but Tom Ross, you know him. Yep. He mentioned I should introduce myself. Can I take 30 seconds to share with you what I do? And you tell me if you'd rather hang up on me, if we should continue talking. Sure. Boom. Mark bought because he trusts Tom, right? He's like, if it's good enough for Tom, it's good enough for me. Tom told me you were going to be calling, right? And he said I should listen. And yes, I'm going to do it. Awesome. Hey, who are some names of people that I could say hi to, and based on who you are, they may listen to me. And this is a true story. He gave me a name of a guy, his son, Gerardo, and I looked him up on Facebook. So one of the things I also do to get names is I'm friends with all of my clients. Okay. I'm friends with all of my clients. And the reason I do it is before I sit down with them, I'm looking at the names on their friends list to see who I have mutual connection with, to see if there's other connections that I can make. And I made connection with Zach Tolbert. Or no, I'm sorry. I looked at his son's, I looked at his son's Facebook, and his son was friends with Zach Tolbert. And so I called up Zach. I'm like, how do you know so-and-so? He goes, well, he's a client of mine. He works down at da-da-da-da-da, right? I was like, that's amazing. North Carolina, right? This guy lives in the Mark lived in Georgia, but his son lived in the North Carolina area, and Zach has him as a client, right? So I was able to call back Mark and say, hey, not only does Tom Ross, your buddy, have it, but your son also has this, blah, blah, blah. I'm going all over the place, but do you guys understand why names?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was solid. This is gold.
Do you guys understand how names, okay? Use names in the approach. Use names in the building rapport. Like you might know 10 people that are clients of mine. Like when I'm in a business, right? And I've got people who are already clients of mine, I'll sit down with a yes/no card and I'll be like, hey, you said that you were open to hearing more about this. Hey, let me just share with you all the people in this business who are already clients of mine. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, so I'm gonna talk to you about why they bought this policy, but you're not them, okay? And if at the end of this it's not a fit for you, totally fine. But let me ask you, why was this something you wanted to hear more about? Listen, right? Well, my mom had cancer. Gosh, and so I write down mom, okay? Well, what names am I thinking that I want to get from her later? Brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, cousins, right? Because their mom has dealt with cancer. So I'm immediately thinking, what other family members, right? Okay. And then it's like, okay, if they're young, right? I'm thinking to myself, okay, do you think, when I sit down with young people, the hardest thing for me to help them understand is this isn't an old person's disease. Do you think cancer is an old person's disease? Well, no, I don't. Why don't you think that? Well, because blah, 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 well, my friend in high school, he had it, it's like, oh, okay, got it. Do you know any children who've dealt with it? Yes. Boom. So names in the building rapport with people, right? I use stories of, hey, this person had a family member who dealt with cancer. This person had a coworker who dealt with cancer. This person had a friend who dealt with cancer. If you don't mind me asking, who's the closest person you know? Friend, neighbor, family member who's had cancer, right? Same thing we taught 18 years ago, still using it today, right? And then it's like, hey, I'm going to show this to you. And if it's a fit for you, great. I'd love to have you as a client, just like all these other people. But hey, if not, no big deal. Not a big deal. Hardest part about my job is catching people. I show this about 30 times a week. 5 people buy, 25 people say no. You're not going to hurt my feelings. Can you just be upfront with me and let me know one way or the other? Yep, super. You know why I asked that? I think people think of this 2 times. One is when I talk to them, and one's the next time they think about it. When something happens. Yep, you know what? And then they're thinking 2 things when they get that diagnosis. They're thinking, 1, I got to call Rob. Thankful I bought this policy, right? Or 2, man, I wish I would have done it with Rob. You know, I wish I would have got that policy, right? So then there's names in that. Okay. Presentation, there's not a ton of names, right? But then at the close, it's like, hey, so, you know, Scott Smith liked it because it pays on top of his wife's insurance. They already have good health insurance, but he just likes it for all the, you know, he likes the fact that the money comes directly to him so he can use it for what his health insurance doesn't cover, like lost income, things like that. You know, Jamie Jones liked it because he's like, man, that's really affordable. I thought it was going to be a whole lot more expensive. You know, everyone likes it because it's return of premium, you know, but you're not Scott and you're not Jamie. You're not everybody else. You're you. I've shared with you, like, other people buy this. What do you like about this? Well, I like it because, you know, super. Based on what you told me about your mom, you know, how would it make you feel to have this in place for you just in case? I think it'll be a great idea. Remember. Awesome. So what people like about the way I do business is I got a 1-page application where I ask questions about you, and then there's some health questions. You know, there's no phlebotomist, no physical exam, no nothing. It's nice to have something simple for a change, right? Yes. Awesome. You know, and then on and on and on and on. And so at the end, right, I'm signing people up and I'm like, hey, only reason I'm sitting here in front of you as a teacher is your principal allowed me to come and do a presentation. She's passing on me to you, right? I don't say that, but she, you know, she allowed me to come. Are you comfortable with the way I approached you and how I dealt with you? And yes, yes, yes. Awesome. Hey, who are some names of people that you care about that I could say hi to? And based on who you are, they may listen to me. And it's just on and on and on and on and on, right? Cyclical thing. But names are so important, right? Yes, names are important. Yes, yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
Do we understand where to use names? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Do we understand how to use names? Yes. Yes. Now, let me cover 2 objections, right? 1, what if you don't have any names? I remember my first business, I was selling books, and I followed a guy named Fred Cox. He actually died in 9/11, but I followed Fred Cox, and I was horrible at sales. And I was looking at him, and I'm like, he used names and names and names and names and names. I'm like, hey, I didn't learn anything except for the fact that you just have a lot of clients already. And if I had those names, I'd be doing just as well as you. He goes, where do you think I started? I had to start without any names. So I was like, got it. Let me just start selling some people and I'll get those names, you know, progress, not perfection, progress, not perfection, right? Other objection I usually get, what if people don't give you names? And that happens, right? They're not comfortable, no big deal. But if you give to get, like if you're like, hey, so I sat down with, and I've got my names list, right? Still use paper and pen because I'm old, right? So Candace Holt, I sat down with her and she gave me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 names. Okay. And she gave me 2 office managers that do the same thing that she does. She works for Blue Cross Blue Shield. How funny is that? Right. So she works for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she allowed me to come to a sales meeting, and she's like, hey, you should go talk to these other office managers and see if they'll allow you to come to a sales managers meeting. Okay. Then she gave me a bunch of her friends. Then she gave me a bunch of her, well, actually, she didn't. All her friends, she said, don't talk to my family. But anyway, and then, so I sat down with her first. And then when I sat down with one of her employees, I'm like, hey, Ivana, thanks for buying a policy from me. Hey, Candace gave me 10 names. Are you comfortable with the way I did, you know, my presentation today? Yes. Awesome. Are you thankful that Candace allowed me to come and talk to you? Yes. Awesome. Hey, the hard part about my job isn't finding people that like this and can afford it, it's just catching people's attention. Who are some families that you care about that I could say hi to? And based on who you are, they may take a phone call from me. Well, you should talk to Maria Collins. Maria's in the insurance business, right? Yasmin Flores, Maria Cardenas, and Adriana Davis. So I got 4 names from her, right? And then it's just on and on and on and on and on. I don't know how much time I've gone.
Rob, you could go for 2 more hours and it would be absolute gold. I really, I hope folks are just connecting the dots between this is not a complicated business. It is meet people, names, referrals, repeat. Guys, have you noticed that? And again, Rob's sales talk, if you're picking up, it is the sales talk that he learned 18 years ago. It absolutely works. It may not sound like it because it sounds very Rob, but Rob memorized, then he naturalized, and now he personalizes a little bit. But man, the skeleton is the exact same. Guys, we do have a couple minutes. I mean, I could wind Rob up again and let him go for 10 more, or we can field a couple of questions here real quick. You can see Rob gets fired up when he gets in front of a group. I love it. Absolutely love it. You guys have never seen Rob on stage at a national sales meeting accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award or some other award. It's truly amazing. Matter of fact, we got to pull up some of the YouTube videos of Rob, of you doing your songs. I sell insurance door to door. What a classic. That classic insurance salesman. Guys, anybody got a question for Rob? This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Hey, Rob, Rylan here, man. Quick question for you. So it sounds like you're definitely referral based completely now, which is awesome. I love your approaches. What's the time frame there, right? If you're getting 10 names after that demo and that sell, are you immediately like perfect, bang, 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 calling all 10 immediately?
Great question. Great question. So I'll ask the people, hey, can you give them a heads up to let them know that I'll be contacting them? And, most people don't, but I'll give them a heads up. I give them like 2 days to give them a heads up. And then it's like, release the hounds, just like it's time to go. And then I do a bunch of referrals throughout the week. And then on the weekend, I'll do, I'll call back on those people just like I did, when I went door to door. I would catch as many people as I can during the week, and then on the weekends I'll go back and catch the people who I missed. So same thing, I'll get referrals and I'll call them like in 2 days, and then I keep doing that with all the referrals that I get from that week. And then on that following Saturday or Sunday, I'll do some phone time and call all the people that I missed because they might have been working or whatever.
Solid. Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, anybody else? I know it's
One more question.
There you go.
Sorry, Rylan again. Hey, man. And then on the Zoom part, I had a quick question. So when you make that phone call, do you kind of phrase that of like, hey, so would you, are you opposed to doing this on Zoom? So are you?
Hey, are you open to doing a Zoom?
That?
Are you open to doing a Zoom call, or do you want to meet in person? Like, I mean, that's it. I'm always trying to do Zoom. Hey, you live an hour and a half away. Could we do a Zoom call? Or do you prefer meeting in? And I have some people who are, I don't even know how to use Zoom. I'm like, oh, have you ever done a FaceTime call? Yep. Awesome. I have a client. I have a appointment with a teacher later on, and she wanted to meet with her and her husband. And she's like, well, I don't have the best service in my area where I live. And I'm like, okay, cool. Tell you what, let me email you some PDFs ahead of time. Can you print those off at school? And then when you're at home, do you have a landline? You do? Awesome. I'll call your landline tonight. And if you're looking at the PDFs, we'll just do it that way.
Solid. Thanks.
Problem solving. So, Rylan, I see Lovejoy, right? I've got some clients who are Lovejoys in the Arkansas area. I mean, when I'm looking at names, right, I just have all these names rolling through my head. It's like Clark. Oh, Brent and Cynthia Clark, right? Zoom user. I have a lot of users that I'm just kidding. It's just fun. Whenever I see like Miller, I'm like, okay, how many Millers do I know that are clients of mine? And when I sit down with them, yeah, I'm that annoying guy. Do you know so-and-so? And when I sit down with someone, I'll be like, hey, are you on Facebook? You are? Awesome. What's let me look you up real quick. Do you mind if I stalk you real quick? And they're like, no, everyone does it. I'm like, yeah, but not everyone admits to it, do they? I'm going to stalk you right now. So it's like, oh my gosh, 63 friends. And I go, I did this with a lady last week. I was at the Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield office, right? And I was doing the presentation. I had some time before the presentation. 4 people showed. I wasn't really feeling excited about this presentation. I was like, this isn't going to go very well. But I was like, hey, where are you from? And she's like, well, I'm here in Rogers. I'm like, are you on Facebook? She's like, yeah. I go, I bet you go to my church. She goes, how do you know that? I'm like, we got 47 friends. She's like, yeah, I do. I go, do you know Jen Connect? Yep, she's a client. Okay, do you know Sean Sawatsky? I love Sean, blah, 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 blah. Right? Instant rapport. This other lady, where are you from? I'm from Berryville. She said Berryville. I'm like, no, you're not from Berryville. You're from Berryville. She's like, yeah. I go, do you know Alan Hulse? I do know Alan Hulse. He's the post office man. Yeah, I met him through the Berryville Fire Department, and he wasn't concerned about cancer, but he was concerned about heart stroke, and he bought a heart stroke policy, and he's used it twice. Do you know Kim Ferguson? Yeah. She just lost Tommy in January. Yeah. She had our policies, right? And she's thankful she had them. She actually had a policy through her school as well, and she said this was so much easier to use than the one through her school. Instant rapport. Sorry, teaching again.
Do not apologize for teaching, Rob. This is awesome.
Rob, it's Zach. Good morning, buddy.
First time caller, long time listener.
Yes. You're the epitome of earned freedom. 95% of the people on this call have not gotten to that point yet. You mentioned you work from the house. I know your schedule to a degree. You're very, very disciplined, controlling your hours in between certain times. But how do you control your environment being at home with all the distractions? How do you set up your environment to get stuff done?
Well, that's a great question. So my wife and kids are gone during the day, right? So that's totally good for me to do phone calls and things like that. And but I'll be honest with you, majority of my selling is in the evening time. Why? Because that's when husbands and wives are home, right? So I arrange my schedule. So last night I didn't sell because I had a football game, which was an hour away. So I didn't have any appointments after 4. And so I drove there and drove back. But today I've got continuing ed. So Zach, I won't be able to talk today. But I've got continuing ed from 8:30 till 4:30 today. But then I have a 6 o'clock Zoom, a 7 o'clock Zoom, and the 8 o'clock, I've got that teacher who lives out in the middle of nowhere where I'm doing a phone call to a landline. So I have a 6, a 7, and an 8. So my family knows that tonight they're not going to see me. They saw me last night, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I usually try to do as many meetings as I can. My wife and kids go to school or go to church on Wednesday nights as well. So I know that I'm, free to do that. I do Bible studies Wednesday mornings and things like that. So my wife does Bible study on Wednesday nights. Not like I'm a, Satan worshiper or anything like that. I just get it in a different time of day. But I figure out when my family has activities, and then I plan my schedule around. Zoom, Zach, as I've told you, is a wonderful thing, right? If I need to catch someone on the weekend and I can do a Zoom call, man, I could be watching a football game and then I get a chime that's like, you have a Zoom call in 15 minutes with so-and-so, So just pause the football game, go into the office, do the Zoom call. Hey, family, I'm on a Zoom call. I'll be back, right? Do the Zoom call. They bye. Go back, unpause, football game's back on, right? So I schedule my life around my job, right? I schedule my job around my life, I guess is my point. But I'm always trying to do at least 20 phone calls a day, 20 dials a day. That's one thing that I definitely want to do is if I make 20 dials, I know I'm going to be successful at this. And not everyone answers the phone, but it's just abundance mentality. We can get it. That seems a lot more advanced for this call, but anyway.
That's awesome.
That definitely helps.
Thank you for that, Rob. Rob, in 60 seconds or less, if you were given one piece of advice to somebody on here in their first year in the business, what would that be?
Be patient. Be patient. Progress, not perfection. Progress, not perfection. Everyone wants the things that are sold right away. I remember Peter Ferre told me this isn't a sexy job, but it's a very sexy lifestyle if you do the job, and I had, and this is just something I learn to say no to the immediate so you can say yes to the long term. No, learn to say no to the immediate so you can say yes to the long term. So Van mentioned I lived in Denver, Colorado, and I had a buddy when I moved out there. His name was Will Arthur, and he knew I was a baseball fan, and he was a baseball fan. He's like, dude, called me up, and he's like, hey, I want to go to the Rockies game. Van knows I like Rockies, right? But it was a Wednesday night. And I had told myself that I was going to work from, I remember Peter Ferre said, average people work 12 to 8, above average people work 10 to 8, right? So I was working till 8 o'clock that night. And I was like, hey, I can't go to the game tonight. What do you mean you can't? You're self-employed. You can do whatever you want. Like, I know, I can't. I'm not going to the game tonight. I'll go to the game with you on the weekend, but tonight I'm working till 8, And that's why I've done well in my career is I've just made those decisions over and over and over again. Now, to Zach's point, do I always make those decisions now? I don't, but I've got lots of monthly income coming in. Guys, let me just speak to this opportunity. It is a great opportunity. We work for a great company. I am so convicted that when I sit down with a family and I say, hey, if you get diagnosed with cancer, we pay $6,000. I know that if they get diagnosed with cancer, they're going to get paid $6,000. And if it says we pay $800 a day for hospitalization, I know our company does what it says it's going to do. It makes it very easy for me to sell these policies, right? I am so convicted in this policy. My brother-in-law, I sold a policy to him, and his daughter was born and she was in the NICU. I said, hey, I just need itemized billing and things like that. He's like, well, I got a cancer policy. I'm like, well, you got a cancer policy that has ICU rider. That's back in the day when we did that, So it paid. My wife had skin cancer. It paid. My kids, my son broke his arm. It paid. My son broke his hand. It paid. These policies pay. So you can have extreme conviction that our policies do what it says it's going to do. Our company does what they say they're going to do. When I was frustrated when I first got started in this business, no one liked insurance companies because insurance companies don't do what they say they're going to do. Ours does, right? So you have a great opportunity, okay? But you got to work hard. It works if you work. I know you've probably heard that over and over and over again, but it's true. 18 years, right? I remember back in the day thinking, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I thought I was going to be here for 5 years because I was vested after 5 years and then I could leave with my renewals. It's like, okay, I'm going to make the most of my opportunity for 5 years. And at 5 years, I'll have a decision. Do I want to stay or do I want to go? Should I stay or should I? No. Or, right? And then at 5 years, it was like, okay, 10 years, you get stock, right? So I was like, okay, I'll just stay where I'm at. So I stayed till 10 years. And now it's like the golden handcuffs. People can't afford me. I can't afford to go somewhere else because the opportunity is so, so good.
Boom. Guys, Rob, I speak on behalf of both agencies when I tell you, man, thank you. There were so many nuggets in that, guys. We did record this. I want to encourage you guys, though, to go back over this stuff, look through your notes, highlight and star 2 things, because there was 22 things in there, and nobody can change that many. As Peter used to say, a confused prospect never buys, and a confused salesperson rarely sells. So don't get confused. Pick out 2 of Rob's awesome nuggets and implement them today. Like
names. Just use names. Use names and get names. Use names, get names.
It is encouraged that one of those 2 things be names, or both of them. Get names and use names. Guys, it works. Rob, thank you.
Van Davenport uses names. Zach Tolbert uses names. Brandy Graham uses names. Rob McLean uses names, right? Rob's number 8. Who cares what those other dudes are? I'm just kidding. Anyway.
David Villasenor is number 1 all time. He uses names like nobody's business. He's all like
nobody's business.
All of them use names. Jennifer Ziebelman, she used names. She's number 2. I got a nice little walk through the top 10 of the world last night while going through this. So creating your bio. Guys, it works if we work it. So our system does work. Let's go work our system. And gosh, I've said it so many times, but it's so true. We've all been so very blessed. We can walk, talk, breathe, move, drive. let's go out and be a blessing for somebody else with those skills that we have and those talents. God bless, guys. Have a great day. And Rob, thank you again, man. Love you.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Rob.
Rob.